Every community is curious about its own environment and creates many kinds of records of its activities. While many of these have been lost, the rise of the public library movement provided a happy resting place for this type of material through the formation of local history collections. This was certainly the case with the Mitchell Library. Before it even opened its doors in 1877, the librarian was making special efforts to gather in everything related to the city, making it one of our very first special collections. The Glasgow Collection represents the library and the city in a way no other place can. It provides a distinctive record of local heritage and through donation, bequest and purchase is a living and growing part of our collective memory. Housed in a department known as the Glasgow Room by generations of Glaswegians, it is the place to visit to answer questions about the city, the key to weird Glasgow puzzles as described by local writer Cliff Hanley, who also said, "What this city has given me is an unending stream of bafflements, and then what it has given me is the Mitchell Library to help me pursue the mysteries." Perhaps the weirdest Glasgow puzzle relates to the emblems that appear both in the city's coat of arms and in the corresponding riddle: the bell that never rang, the fish that never swam, the tree that never grew, the bird that never flew. Just a few other examples of weird Glasgow puzzles are: who was the human crocodile? And what was the poet's box, the temple of the muses? My favourite relates to the Mitchell Library itself. Just why did Alice Paul spend a rainy night on the roof of the building, sustained only by chocolate? First and foremost, the Glasgow Collection is a local history collection, which by definition is a collection of materials which will not be found elsewhere. However, there is much more to it than that, as local history materials also aid research into family history, making it the core of our local and family history services. It offers endless research opportunities for all, from the casual inquirer to the academic. Every item in the collection has a common feature, and that is a connection with Glasgow. Here are some examples. It can be safely said that there is no Glasgow book of any significance, from 1638, when the first book was printed in Glasgow, to the present day, which is not on the shelves of the Glasgow Collection. Whether fact or fiction, anecdote, myth or rumour, all these books are part of Glasgow's story and contribute to our cultural heritage. Broadsides were single sheet publications printed on one side for pasting on street furniture. Reading materials designed to communicate news, entertainment, scandal and sensation. Chapbooks too were usually printed on a single sheet, which was then folded up to form a small book. Their content is varied, including moral tales and body stories. Similarly, pamphlets were produced cheaply and distributed easily, making them a common tool of political protest, as well as a popular medium for reproduction of medical reports and religious sermons. Our newspaper archive is hard to beat for richness and variety. We have one of the largest collections of Glasgow newspapers, representing both current titles and those that are no more. In styles ranging from the serious to the gossipy, they record the city's major events, its social life, sport and day-to-day minutiae, revealing much about society's attitudes and interests. They can also provide crucial family history detail through birth, marriage and death notices and obituaries. Also produced in or about Glasgow are the radical journals of the 18th century and periodicals from their Victorian and Edwardian heyday. We have some of the earliest plans of Glasgow, as well as ordnance survey maps from the mid-19th century onwards, showing us the essential visual information that only contemporary knowledge of a place can bring, and revealing the city's major changes physically over time. These allow us to consider how people lived and worked, with the influence of rivers and streams on the development of communities, fields disappearing, factories springing up, and the advancing lines of villas, tenements, railways and motorways. Our rich illustrations show the changing scale of the city over centuries. We hold many examples of the photographic work of Thomas Annan, probably most famous for his recording of the cramped living conditions and poor sanitation of the slum areas before their demolition in the late 1860s. Another highlight is the little-known collection of portraits and streetscapes by William Graham, which reflects day-to-day events at the turn of the 20th century. Incidentally, Graham was a one-time employee of the North British Locomotive Company, for which we also hold a photographic collection, one of several illustrating the grandeur of Glasgow's industrial past. Although some are easier to decipher than others, manuscripts bring the past to life in a personal and immediate way. We have many examples relating to the obscure, the famous, and the infamous. While some are concerned with industry and business, others give a valuable insight into writers' early drafts and corrections, and one series of letters, written by Madeline Smith, has become notorious due to the writer's 1857 trial for murder. To support genealogical research, we hold microfilm copies and some transcripts of old parish registers listing baptisms, marriages, and burials. We also hold burial records on microfilm for most Glasgow cemeteries, as well as details of monumental inscriptions. Electoral registers list those people eligible to vote in local, parliamentary, and other national elections. These can reveal useful personal and demographic information, such as individuals' occupations, in the early registers at least, and the growth of the electorate. Valuation rolls give the names of the proprietors and tenants of rateable commercial and domestic properties. Census returns provide insight into households and their neighbours. Various street, trade and telephone directories show the social and economic development of Glasgow, offering a snapshot of industry, streets and residences at a given date. Ephemera is by its very nature expected to be short-lived, but postcards, flyers, tickets and news cuttings, sometimes in scrapbooks, reveal insights into both large-scale public events such as the Garden Festival or Commonwealth Games, but also local community events. These often capture information that just cannot be found elsewhere. Similarly, playbills, posters, programmes and librettos, many autographed, from 1812 onwards, highlight the music hall, theatre and cinema heritage of the city. Our collection is determined, of course, by what has survived, and so we are indebted to donors for hanging on to these materials. In order to improve access to the Glasgow Collection and others, increasing amounts of material is becoming available online. For example, see the web pages for Virtual Mitchell, e-resources and our A to Z of collections. You might be surprised to learn that not every item in the Glasgow Collection is included in the catalogue. However, we have a few tools to help you discover our resources. The best use of our stock is very much a matter of experience, and we are fortunate to have a combined staff experience of many years to interpret the Glasgow Collection to inquirers. We have compiled useful finding aids, guides, indexes and lists to the collection that will serve to answer many questions. Staff will offer help in using these tools and in sourcing materials from store. They are renowned for locating even the most elusive item, thereby solving many a weird Glasgow puzzle. Finally, I want to stress what I believe is the most fascinating aspect of the Glasgow Collection, which is its self-perpetuating nature. Its strength comes from its regenerative qualities. As people work with our resources, many write books and articles based on material gleaned from the collection and then donate copies of these works to us. In fact, very few recent books about Glasgow lack an acknowledgement to the Glasgow Collection and its staff. Such contributions, both of amateur study and professional scholarship, build the collection, perpetuating understanding and study of the city. The Glasgow Collection aims to meet the growing public demand for knowledge of the past by collecting and preserving material relating to the history, life and people of the city. As such, the collection is geared specifically at those Cliff Hanley described as the baffled searchers after truth and hilarity about this magical city. By the way, if you're waiting for me to reveal the answers to all the weird Glasgow puzzles that I mentioned at the start, well, of course, the Glasgow Collection is merely the key, and there were some clues in the slides. For all the answers, however, please do get in touch.